Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Don't assume that you won't be impacted by President Biden's proposed tax increases because you're not wealthy enough. We've been sounding the alarm that higher taxes are probably coming. Most people don't realize we are in a low tax rate environment, but they aren't going to remain on sale forever. And even at their current rates, they can still swipe away at your savings, leaving you with just a fraction of the money that you are counting on for retirement. So on the Statler Financial Radio Show today, we want to help you understand who could be impacted by proposed tax increases and give you some ideas for how you can keep more of your hard-earned money in your own pocket. It is a big topic today as we sit down with Philip Statler, President and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Boy, Philip, going to get into taxes, but I hope you're doing great this week.
I am. Here's the deal, Jen. In your kind of the heading of what today's going to look like, one of the things that I find is that's a big, misnomer that people have that, hey, you know what, I make under this amount of money, so whatever Biden does isn't going to affect me because I don't make that much money. And we're going to find out today that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, absolutely. The Biden administration, we'll talk about some of those different places where you could be impacted. The Biden administration has proposed an increase in the capital gains tax to take it up to 43.4%. Now, they're saying it's for people earning over $1 million. Nothing's been approved yet, but this could potentially impact a lot of people.
It really could, Jen, and it's crazy. And there's a lot of examples out there of how this could affect different people. But I want to talk about one this morning from the Wall Street Journal. They had an article of how this proposed could really impact a specific landlord that they talked to. And he had saved and he had bought an apartment complex. It's like 20 something years ago. And he paid himself. So, he paid himself like $75,000 a year. He wasn't getting rich, folks. He was just making a living, right? Owning this apartment building. But here's the deal. We find out under the Biden proposal, if he sells that, because that's what he wanted to do, right? Sell it when he gets ready to retire.
Right. That's his retirement plan. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be his retirement. Here's the deal. The Biden tax hike would treat him as if he's been a millionaire forever. He's going to get zapped with a huge increase in capital gains taxes in that 1 year, that one little year that he happens to make a big deal on the sale of his property that he's owned for 27 years. He's going to get hit hard. And so this gentleman's name is Paul Settle. He's 64 years old. He lives in Kentucky. And that was his retirement plan, right? He was going to sell this apartment complex, pay it off, and then live off of those proceeds in retirement. And so here's what that looks like for him. He's had an offer of like $2.3 million for this apartment complex. Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but he's got a mortgage he's got to pay back. So under the current rates where we are today, he would pay just under $500,000 in federal taxes on that sale.
Which is still a lot.
Yeah, which is huge, right? That's a lot of money. But that would leave him with like $800,000 after he paid off his mortgage. And then, not only do we have to pay federal, but he lives in Kentucky. Kentucky has a state income tax. So he's got to pay that income tax too. So he would end up with about $800,000. Now let's just switch gears here and let's look at what that could look like to him in terms of under the Biden plan or their proposal. And he would owe an additional, Jen, get this, $390,000 more in taxes. So he would owe almost $900,000 in taxes, leaving him with a mere $400,000.
Wow. That cuts his retirement in half, what he was planning on having saved to go into retirement.
Exactly. And you think about it, there's people I run across that have a lot more of that in their 401ks. And so the first example, under current situation, if he had 800,000, well, I don't see many people in our area that have more than $800,000 in their 401k. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but that would be somebody that's done very well, probably lived in the Northeast or out West before retiring here. But so that's a big deal, right? As we look at that impact of those taxes on his retirement.
So what's the lesson here for people who are trying to secure their financial future? Because again, like you were saying with this example in the Wall Street Journal from this landlord in Kentucky who's never been a millionaire, but he's essentially a millionaire for a year when he sells his apartment complex, and then he's going to be zapped by these tax increases. What's the lesson here for other people trying to secure their financial future?
Well, and let's remember this. He's only a millionaire on paper, right? Because
right.
He's not going to get $1 million in the bank anywhere along the way.
Right.
So let's remember that first. Secondly, is that I think the biggest thing is that people really and truly believe that they don't have to worry about taxes because they don't make that much money. And the issue is you do have to worry about taxes. Taxes are a vital part of planning when it comes to planning for your retirement. I don't know that I can express that strong enough, Jim, that it can eat away at what you've saved well before you realize it's really happened. And so I think that makes it more important to understand the tax implications. Number two, make sure you have a proper income plan in place that allows for taking money from different buckets of money, right, going forward, so you can limit the tax impact on what that's going to look like. Folks, listen, if you don't have a retirement income plan, you don't have a written retirement income plan, then you really haven't planned for your retirement. Give us a call. Let us help walk you through that process of developing a retirement income plan that will get you through retirement. And that starts with our financial x-ray. Give us a call right now at 863-285-3815. Again, that number is 863-285-3815. Give us a call today and let's get started on your retirement plan.
That number again, 863-285-3815. When it comes to taxes, you do need to understand that your retirement savings could take a potential hit. Just like we were talking about with this example with the gentleman who planned to sell his apartment complex to fund his retirement. The money that we have in our retirement savings, this could be vulnerable to taxes as well. What are some things to keep in mind, Philip, when it comes to how taxes could impact our retirement accounts down the road?
Well, I think the one thing is let's just remember that taxes are important, and poor decisions, fast decisions without really working through the process can be really problematic and can really, shrink your savings a lot faster than anybody really realizes. So let's keep that in mind. Now, realize that you're not as rich as you think you are when you look at your 401k. And I say that because a good chunk of your assets that are in those IRAs and 401ks, eventually you got to pay tax on that money. It's not just all yours. I like Ed Slott always says, look, there's a mortgage on your IRA and your 401k. And the problem is you don't know what the balance is until you start taking money out. Now, how would you like to buy a house and not know what your mortgage is, right? Doesn't make much sense, does it? But it just gives the idea that planning becomes even more important when we're looking at those retirement assets. Planning withdrawals, while you have some time, it makes some sense, right? I see a lot of people that don't really use their tax brackets efficiently. And so they accumulate, they don't take any money to their IRA, and all of a sudden they reach that magic age of 72 now. They have to start taking their required minimum distribution, their RMD. That number ends up being bigger than they thought it was going to be. Now it causes a lot of their Social Security to become taxable. So it escalates their tax bracket and the amount of tax they owe significantly faster than any of them anticipated. So that's where planning ahead and starting to draw down those retirement assets, those IRAs, prior to reaching that required minimum distribution age becomes important. And so I think that one thing that I try to do for our clients is really and truly think in terms of tax bucket strategies. If we have money in an IRA or 401k, then we know we're going to have to owe taxes on that. So we want to have money in other buckets too that we may not owe taxes on. An area that we look at a lot is, for somebody that's married, they stay in that low 12% tax bracket right now until they hit $81,000 of taxable income. And so what we'll do is if people retire and they're well below that, we want to go ahead and start taking some money out of their IRAs now. Let's pay a little tax now at 12%, and let's move it from the taxable bucket over here to the already paid tax bucket so that we can control where we're taking money from on an ongoing basis. The next bracket after 12 is 22%, and then 24%. The next thing you know, you could be in a 32% tax bracket if you take all your money out at one time. And so we don't want that to happen to folks. We plan hard to make sure we're taking money from the right buckets and that we're not wasting tax brackets by not taking any money out of our IRAs.
Right. And we have been sounding the alarm that higher taxes are probably coming. So many people don't realize we're in a low tax rate environment right now, but those taxes are not going to remain on sale forever. Even at their current rates, they can still swipe away at your savings, leaving you with a fraction of the money that you were counting on for your retirement.
You're absolutely right, Jed. And so folks, please don't assume that you won't be impacted by President Biden's proposed tax increases because you're not, quote, wealthy enough. I bet just about everyone listening has a few areas where they can become a little more tax efficient with their retirement money. That's why for listeners of today's show, I want to help you understand the potential impact taxes can have on your retirement savings. I want to help you learn about ways to reduce or possibly even eliminate taxes on retirement, and then create an income strategy so that your retirement income lasts as long as you need it to last in retirement. Folks, we primarily work with families who have saved between $250,000 and $1 million. But if you've saved at least $150,000 for retirement, give us a call right now at 863-285-3815, and we can help you go over your retirement accounts and uncover what your possible tax liabilities are in the future. And we'll talk about some of the strategies that can help you reduce your taxes down the road. It could mean tens of thousands of dollars back in your pocket to spend the way you want to spend it in retirement. Folks, there's no cost and there's no obligation, but this is only for listeners of today's show. Call us right now at 863-285-3815. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
If you have a retirement plan and would like a second opinion, call Statler Financial Services today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
You toss a penny over your shoulder into a fountain and you make a wish. You look into the fountain and see a lot of pennies, but you see some quarters too. You think, who throws quarters when pennies will do? Now think about the taxes you could be paying in retirement. Do you want to throw pennies or quarters to Uncle Sam? Philip Statler at Statler Financial knows that not planning for taxes in retirement can drain your savings. Taxes can be complicated, so start planning now so you aren't caught off guard in retirement. Call Philip at 863-285-3815. Together, you'll create a plan designed to help you keep as much of your money as possible. Watch your pennies and quarters in retirement. Tell Philip Statler at Statler Financial what your retirement wishes are. Call now, 863-285-3815. That number, 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and may not give tax advice. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip is the inaugural Highlander Award winner for Financial Representative of the Year. Glad to have him here today. StatlerFinancial.com is the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more. And Philip, you and I both know this. It happens every year in every state in America. You have those orange cones and construction zones. blocking your way, forcing you to change your route, making you just want to pull your hair out. And all you're thinking is, how long is this going to last? And why can't they plan better? That's always the question I'm asking. These are not questions you want to be asking about your retirement. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't even matter what season it is. So many times I think we are done with it, and then randomly there are those construction zones again, just where I'm not expecting it, and something that we can all relate to in terms of wishing for better planning and feeling stuck. And that's really not how we want to be in retirement, right?
Yeah, we don't want to be stuck in retirement. That is not a good feeling. I always tell people we want to develop a plan that gives you the retirement you always dreamed of. And that's definitely not a nightmare, right? And
right.
Travel, like you're talking about, that can be a nightmare sometimes. And so we want a quality retirement, not just an existence.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And it's just, I think we all have those stories of things going wrong when we are out and about, traveling out on the roads. Some of my college girlfriends and I took a trip. We were just doing a mom's weekend, just get away from the husbands and the kids for a little bit. So we rented a cabin and we visited some wineries and just kind of hung out and relaxed and had a great time together. And on the way home, we had a little bit of a disagreement on the route that we were going to take back home. One of the girls had plugged in the route in her GPS and it was telling us a certain way. And the other one said, no, that's not the way I usually take. I don't really trust what's going on with your GPS. I want to go this other way. So we ended up going along with what she said. And before we know it, we're in one of these construction zones where it's 2-lane traffic, but it's down to 1 lane while you sit and wait for all the oncoming traffic to go by you. And then you get to go, and then you wait for the other ones to go again. So we realized very quickly this is why the GPS didn't want us to take this route, because this was no good. And then we finally get out of it, and we get back out on the highway again, and we get back up to highway speed, and full blowout on our tire after it had been in all of these terrible back roads. So we were having a great time. We were planning on getting home at a certain time, and just didn't happen. And that's
didn't make it that time, right?
Didn't make it all the way. But
No.
that was an inconvenience. But it's kind of an analogy for what can go wrong. Some of those potholes and bumps and detours you can run into on your journey to retirement. Only it can be a lot more serious when you're putting the money with it, right?
Exactly. There are a lot of different things out there that can divert you from the right path of your retirement. And what are those things? Well, there's different potholes out there that people don't expect. Taxes. I get asked all the time, hey, I'm going to retire now, so I'm thinking that taxes aren't going to be a problem. Well, just because you retire doesn't mean that you get to quit paying taxes. You still, if you have enough income, you're going to have to pay some taxes. And so that, for some people who do it wrong, can be a huge pothole for them. They can have a devastating effect on their retirement planning. Healthcare issues, the market tanking can be a big pothole. It can be earth shattering, that it can disrupt your retirement in such a terrible way that's probably one of the biggest ones that I look out for, because it can definitely change your outcome. And that's not what we want to see happening. We want to put you on a path that's going to avoid the potholes, avoid the construction zones as much as possible. Can we get rid of all of them? No, we can't. But you can do the best you can planning to avoid as much as you can, Jen.
And so let's talk a little bit about what goes into some of those plans, because we all know what it's like to try to plan a vacation, put some of those plans in place. We don't always understand what goes into trying to plan for retirement. I've done a lot of planning of vacations and trips, whether it's for my husband and me or with our kids. I know kind of what to do. I've got the checklist. I know how to do this. I don't really know how to do this when it comes to planning for something as big as retirement.
And it is a planning process, right? I mean, I'm thinking, this whole COVID thing has messed up how many travel plans, right? Well,
Ugh,
I mean,
yes.
my wife and I, we were supposed to go to a meeting out in California, and we were going to extend, and that was going to be our huge vacation. I mean, we were going to go to the Redwood Forest. We were going to go to Napa Valley. We'd never been to Northern California. We're going to go up to San Francisco and then come back down the Pacific Coast Highway. I mean, I had it all mapped out, for the number of days we're going to be there. I had it mapped out. Here's where we'll stay. Here's what we'll do. And then all of a sudden I get the call, hey, we're having to cancel that meeting, and thankfully they did, because now California is even worse, right? I mean, I think you got to quarantine when you get there. I mean, it would have been disastrous. So, so how does that relate to retirement planning? It's the same. You have to plan, and our plans can get disrupted, right? But you have to plan for some of those detours. You got to put a plan together that's going to help get you through those type of things. If you don't have a plan, there's nothing to help get you back on the road, right? You have a devastating event like the market crashes, and that veers you off to the left. And now, instead of being able to get back on the road to retirement, you keep going that direction if you don't have a plan. And it just exasperates the situation. And so having that retirement plan out there helps you be able to navigate back to being on track for retirement and income planning and all those things that we need to put in place for your retirement.
So let's talk a little bit about how we can reach you to get started on the financial X-ray report process and how we can get started with this planning process. And then we'll continue talking about what all goes into it. But I think it's a good time to go ahead and give that number and talk about how we can get started.
Absolutely, Jen. It's an easy process. All you have to do is give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your financial X-ray visit. Whether you come to the office, whether you do it virtually, or whether we do it via phone call, any of those things are available. We try to make it as easy as possible to start that process. Or maybe you're not ready to take that big step yet. Maybe you just want to have a phone conversation. And that's easy too. Give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your 15-minute phone consultation, and then we can go from there. It's really that simple, Jen.
That number again, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. And I think as we talk about this planning process and putting together this kind of roadmap for retirement, the other challenge, we've been talking about planning. I know what it's like to plan for a vacation. When we talk about a roadmap, I know what that means. I can picture an actual road atlas that I have in my car, or I know what the app looks like that I look at when I'm on the road. I'm looking at that GPS, but I don't really know what a roadmap for retirement actually looks like. So could you talk a little bit about just what that looks like when we're done with this process?
Yeah. So when we look at a roadmap, it is really figuring out your destination. And for most people, the destination is, one, what do I need saved up for retirement? And two, how much income am I going to need to live the retirement lifestyle and dream that I have in my head? And so that becomes the roadmap, is year in and year out, what does my income look like? That's the roadmap. Is okay. We know where you are. We've done the risk analysis. We've done your risk tolerance. We've looked at your expenses. Now the next step is, how do we know how much income you're going to need and how much income can we pull out of your portfolio? And so that's where the income planning process comes into place. And we do that. We believe in the bucketed approach. So we set up buckets. The buckets are going to last for so long. And so that gives us the ability to say, okay, look, here's where your money's going to come from for X number of years, whether that's 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever that is, that bucket's going to take you through that period of time, usually 7 years. Then we got the second bucket. That second bucket is going to take you another 5 to 7 years. And then we got a final bucket that's going to really last as long as you're both alive. And so, we structure that income plan, and then that allows us to have a growth bucket that we don't have to worry about taking money out of, except for, hey, maybe we have a big fun trip, or, it's time to buy a new car, or it's time to take that big trip we always wanted to take. Well, okay, that's the growth bucket. That's for those type of things. That becomes our atlas to retirement. That's our path, and that will get us all the way through retirement.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. And that whole path of getting to and through retirement, that's what this planning process is all about. That's why we talk about this each and every week, because, Philip, what isn't a plan, what isn't counting as a roadmap for retirement as we talk about putting all of this together, is building up your savings, doing a great job, having a lot in your 401k or your IRA, and then just treating it like an ATM. Whenever you need cash, you go get that to pay the bills or whatever you need in retirement. That's not what we're talking about here with the planning process, right?
No, that is a disaster waiting to happen, Jen. That will spell disaster for folks if they don't have a plan in place and they just periodically dip into their retirement account because they need this, or, hey, I'm running a little short this month, I'm going to take money out here. And the problem is they don't realize how much they're taking out. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I've had that happen to clients. They didn't stick to the plan that they put together. They continued spending like they were still working, and it was not a good thing. And it doesn't happen very often, but every now and then, you'll run across somebody that just can't stick to the plan. And there's no reason they can't other than willpower. And they just don't have the willpower to do it. And it's sad to see. It's frustrating to see, as the advisor who put the plan together, and we sat down and put all the issues in there and we even inflated it because we knew we could have some issues. And so, but what happened? This would arise, that would arise. Maybe it's a family member we want to take care of instead of taking care of ourselves. And that can be detrimental. And that's where being that retirement coach comes into play too. It's as much about your money as it is about coaching you into and through retirement. I would say even it's a bigger part, Jen, being the retirement coach, being that guy there that you can call and talk to and help, figure out what direction to go. That's our process. The money's fine, but we want to be there to help you walk through retirement, not from just the start, but all the way through the finish. Give us a call right now to start our financial x-ray process for your retirement situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back after this.
If you have a retirement plan and would like a second opinion, call Statler Financial Services today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
You toss a penny over your shoulder into a fountain and you make a wish. You look into the fountain and see a lot of pennies, but you see some quarters too. You think, who throws quarters when pennies will do? Now think about the taxes you could be paying in retirement. Do you want to throw pennies or quarters to Uncle Sam? Philip Statler at Statler Financial knows that not planning for taxes in retirement can drain your savings. Taxes can be complicated, so start planning now so you aren't caught off guard in retirement. Call Philip at 863-285-3815. Together, you'll create a plan designed to help you keep as much of your money as possible. Watch your pennies and quarters in retirement. Tell Philip Statler at Statler Financial what your retirement wishes are. Call now, 863-285-3815. That number, 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and may not give tax advice. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here with Philip Statler. He's president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Philip, the guardrails on a bridge are there for a reason. They keep you from going over the edge. And also, you just feel better knowing they're in place. You can go across with more confidence when there is something to keep you from falling. And every time we talk about being up on kind of a high rise type of area and having guardrails or having no guardrails, I think of the road to Hana in Maui. Have you and Joyce been there? Have you done that before?
Yes, we have done the road to Hana. That is can be a scary road, that's for sure.
It is something, and it gorgeous, breathtaking views, but so many times there's just not much that would keep you from going down into the ocean below.
Like there's not much road there at all,
right,
to be honest.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, narrow road, and then just hardly any guardrail. And to me, anytime we got to a place where there was a little bit more of a barrier, I physically felt more relaxed. I could actually loosen up a little bit and stop being so tense and enjoy the view that I was seeing. But anytime there wasn't that guardrail there, you get a little tense. And I think I would rather, when I think about my retirement, I'd rather be less clenchy and not have those knots in my stomach and be able to enjoy the view. So how do we set ourselves up so that's what we're experiencing in retirement? Not that, yeah, it's awful pretty out there, but I'm real nervous about what's going on.
Yeah, not having guardrails there, it can be an issue. And even if you have guardrails there, there's times that my wife gets really nervous because I look over here and I look over there at all the beauty, right? I mean, that's why we're driving through that area. So it can be problematic. So how do we do that? How do we put some guardrails on our retirement plan and make sure that it's going to work for you? And that's really the thing. That's why every plan is really individualized, because not one plan will fit everybody. As a matter of fact, the plan that we do for you isn't going to work for anybody else out there. And so how do we instill confidence in that retirement planning process? And I think the big thing for that is the income plan part of it. If we map out your income that you're going to be getting month in and month out, then that gives you that relaxation feeling that, hey, I can, that's, with my Social Security and everything else I've got coming in, if I've got this amount coming out of my retirement accounts, hey, that's more than I need. And that's what we like to see. We don't want to put everybody on this really thin budget. That's not our goal. We want people to have the retirement they always dreamed of. And that's not pinching pennies,
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's having abundance and being able to do the things you want in retirement. Now, unfortunately, there are times that Philip has to be the bad guy and say, okay, look, you've not saved enough to be that abundant, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can do this, but you can't do that. And that's where that retirement coaching really comes into play, Jen.
And as we talk about the things that could send our retirement tumbling over the edge, the reason we have guardrails is because of things like taxes and healthcare costs and volatility. So you see why we want to put these guardrails up when it comes to our retirement money. But you can also overdo it as well. When you think about protecting yourself from stock market risk, you might want to go completely safe, get everything out of the markets. But I go back to that whole road to Hana visual, Philip, and even though I would have appreciated a few more guardrails, if there was an 8-foot concrete barrier completely boxing us in and impeding the view altogether, well, that's not better. That's not what we want either, right?
It was safer though, right? You'd be safe. You wouldn't fall over the edge. But,
yeah.
But it does do away with the view, which is the reason you were taking the risk to go up there in the first place. So you're right. So how do we really equate the road to Hana to our retirement? Well, we need to have guardrails in place to protect us. But it also means we have to take some risk in retirement. and I think I've said this before on the show, but I get both extremes. I sit down with folks who have 100% of their portfolio in the market. And I sit down with folks that have 0% in the market and everything's safe either in the bank or in a fixed annuity that can't lose any money. Mm-hmm. And neither one of those cases is the right way to go. That's why I believe in the rule of 100. We take 100 minus your age. That's what we should have in the risk bucket. Now, is that a tried and true? We're going to do that every time? No. It's kind of hey, this is a starting point. If somebody is more risk adverse, wants to take more risk, okay, we'll take more risk. But we're going to still stay within some realm of that rule of 100 as our basis for making those decisions. The same is true on the other side of the game. Somebody's ultra conservative. They don't want to take any risk. Well, we need to have a little bit of risk to help keep up with things like inflation, to help grow that growth bucket. And so that's the other side of that conversation. And that's where we have to piece everything together based on the individual. And so everybody's different, and what their risk number is going to be different. And so we have to build that plan based on 1, their risk number, 2, the rule of 100, 3, what kind of income are they going to need in retirement? So there's all kinds of variables we have to put into place to make sure the plan is going to work for them. But the starting point is truly, how much risk do you have in your portfolio? Because if you don't know that, then you don't know where you are. If you don't know where you are, you don't know where you need to get to. So we start with our financial x-ray. It's easy to do. All you have to do is give me a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 to get started on your financial x-ray.
That number one more time, 863-285-3815 to get started on your financial x-ray with Philip Statler. That's 863-285-3815. Philip, talk a little bit about, as we talk about that balance between safety, we don't want too much at risk, and also, but we have to have a balance with growth as well, because we do need some. Talk a little bit about the impact of things like inflation if we don't put that growth piece into our plan.
Well, we call inflation the silent killer of retirement. And why is that? Because it sneaks up on you. Right now, inflation is so low you can't even see it. I mean, it's 0.1% right now. But that's not normal. We expect normal inflation to be between 2 and 3%. And folks, that adds up over time. If you're going to be retired, what do they say now? Life expectancy is easily going to be the mid 80s to early 90s. And it's not unusual. I mean, I look at the papers all the time, and, I was talking to actually one of my clients the other day, and her father-in-law is 105, 105. And
wow.
Still, I mean, he's not living at home now. He's finally in assisted living, but that's only happened in the last 2 years. So he lived by himself till he was over 100. If we're going to live that long, and none of us think we will, but there's some of us out there going to live that long, inflation is going to be a big deal. And if we don't have any exposure to the markets, then we can't help account for that inflation. We can't help offset that inflation. And so that's why I feel it's important that we have at least some, even if it's only 10%, 20%, actually in the market, watched over, not just sitting there, with some, hey, we'll just set it and forget it. No, we're going to be tactical. We're going to be very watchful over that portfolio to make sure it's doing what we need it to do. And if it's not, we'll make changes to it. It's that simple. But you need that. And you got to have that in your retirement portfolio.
Just a lot of different risks, because the big challenge is we don't know how long we'll live. We could end up being in that situation where we are healthy and independent until we're 100 years old. or we could end up needing some sort of assisted living, and that's costly as well. We just don't know exactly how this is going to unfold as we get into our later years, but it is possible to do the planning so we don't run out of money, right?
Absolutely. And that's the focus, is putting together that plan. And too many people just don't do it. And I understand why. Don't get me wrong, Jen. I get it. Nobody wants to sit down and walk through that process of how much am I going to really need? What's my budget going to look like? And where am I at now? And if I'm short, what do I have to do? I have to save more money. That means I have to do without right now in order to have the savings to live the retirement I always wanted to. So I know there's a lot of variables in all that, but you can't do it by yourself. You can't start that retirement process and plan it out properly by yourself. You need a retirement coach. That's what we're here for, is help coach you into and through retirement. I don't want to just take care of your money. I don't want to run your money. I don't want to just put together an income plan. I want to be your retirement coach. That means I'm here as your 911. Emergencies pop up. Things need to be taken care of. I want to be your 411. You need information. You need help buying big ticket items. You need help negotiating things. That's what we're here for. We're here to help walk you through retirement, coach you into and through it, and to be by your side. If you're ready to get started with your retirement plan, give me a call at 863-285-3815 to get started with your financial x-ray. That's 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. Stay with us.
Call Philip Statler today to get started on your complimentary financial x-ray report. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
From the pitch, swung at a little too soon.
Strike three, you're out.
To the joke told at the wrong time. To barely missing your connecting flight.
This is the final boarding call for Flight 109 to Chicago.
Timing is everything. The same is true for your Social Security benefits. Take them too soon and you could leave a lot of money on the table. Take them too late and you might spend down too much of your savings. Everybody's situation can be different, but taking your Social Security benefits at the right time is important for your retirement success. Philip Statler at Statler Financial understands Social Security and can help you make decisions that are best for you and your retirement dreams. Call 863-285-3815 to start optimizing your benefits. With Social Security, timing is everything, so don't delay. Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial today. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Our firm offers insurance services and is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here today with Philip Statler. He's president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. StatlerFinancial.com is the website if you'd like to learn a little bit more. And Philip, you get questions from people all the time. We wanted to find out some of those commonly asked retirement questions. We figure if these people have questions, a lot of our listeners do too. So we've got a collection of different voices asking some questions here that are, I think, pretty standard retirement-related questions. So let's start with our first question here. This one comes from Jerry, and I'll just let him ask what he wants to know.
So I'm thinking about buying an annuity with some of my retirement savings, but I'm really nervous about losing control of my money. If I'm nervous about it, does it still make sense?
Well, that's a good question, Jerry. And here's the thing. There's a lot of things that we're nervous about and we're uncomfortable with. And sometimes that means that's the direction we should go, right? Because that may be the best for you. So I don't think you should do more than what you're comfortable with, but I think you need to get educated. A lot of times that uneasiness or that uncomfortableness is because of the unknown. We don't understand them enough to be willing to use them as an investment. I believe education is the biggest thing that's missing when it comes to investing in general, financial planning, all that stuff is people lack education. That's why I tell you, you come to my office, I've got a big whiteboard, and I love to live on that whiteboard, drawing pictures and showing people how things work, because that's the key, is having those type of things in place. So my job is to make it so it's not uneasy, right? That you're not uncomfortable with that annuity decision. And honestly, that's what I see most of the time, is once people understand how they work, they're like, why didn't we do this before? Why didn't my financial advisor tell me about these? Why haven't I used one? Well, it's because your financial advisor doesn't have all the tools in their toolbox that they need to help take care of you. And that's why having an independent fiduciary type advisor is what most people need, especially in retirement, Jerry.
All right, great question, Jerry. Appreciate that. Let's go to our next one. This is Marty, and here's what he would like to know.
Is there a good rule of thumb for how much of my IRA should be in safe investments when I turn 60, or is it more just a matter of personal preference?
So I'm going to say, Marty, it's kind of a combination of both. I'm a big believer in the rule of 100. And the rule of 100 says that we're going to take 100 minus your age, in this case, 60. And that 40% would be what you would want at risk. 60% would be what you would want safe and protected. Now, is that a one shot fits all type of thing? It's not. So I tell people that, we should be, plus or minus 10%. So that means in your case at age 60, maybe 60-40 is too much safe for you. So maybe 50-50 you'd be more comfortable with. Or maybe you're really risk adverse. You don't want any risk. So then I say, okay, then 30-70, 70% safe, 30% at risk. Because my belief is almost everybody needs a little bit of risk in their portfolio to help keep up with inflation. So, hey, Marty, I hope that's helpful for you.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. And I do think it's important when people like Marty have that question about what should be in safer financial instruments. Is it a matter of personal preference? I think it's also important to talk about where they're getting their advice on this, because what might work for their brother-in-law or their neighbor or whomever they've been talking to, it might not make sense for them. It's what's going on with their personal risk tolerance. It's also what's going on with the rest of their money. Talk a little bit about who we should be getting that type of advice from, rather than just, chatting with people we know who are getting close to retirement.
Well, I'll give you a couple things. That I'm glad you said that, because that just reminds me. The one place you don't want to get your advice is on the golf course, right?
Right.
And so because I know. I mean, I've talked to clients, and I know this happens all the time. Is if your buddy on the golf course, if he's really doing well in his portfolio, man, he's going to let you know about it. He's going to be bragging. But think about this: if he's not doing well, if he's losing his tail, he's not going to say a word. So you need to take that in consideration. Where are you getting your information? And then two, your level of risk, or what you're comfortable with, is going to be different than your brother, your brother-in-law, your best friend. And so that's why I believe you need to have a number. What is your risk number? And that's what we do. We've got a system in place where we know what your risk number is, and then we can build a portfolio around that risk number so that it lines up with that risk number. Too often, people think that they can invest just like their brother, and their brother has a lot more risk tolerance than they do, and they get nervous a lot quicker. And so investing is really and truly specific to you, your comfort level, your risk tolerance, your nature, how you view risk. There's a lot of things that go into it. So you can't compare your portfolio to somebody else's portfolio, because they're never going to line up. They're never going to line up because, and they shouldn't, because your risk is not going to be the same as somebody else's risk tolerance.
Let's do one more. I've got a question here from Dennis, and it has more to do with income. So let's take a listen to Dennis's question.
What's your opinion of making money off rental properties in retirement? I see a lot of houses I can buy for $80,000 to $100,000. I'm 68. My wife is too, but she doesn't like the idea. What do you think?
Man, Dennis, that is a loaded question. So I'm going to try to address it as much as I can within the time we have left, okay? So my view on rental property is if you're the guy that can fix it up and take care of it, then maybe it works. But here's the other thing I want you to think about. It's an illiquid asset, meaning, if the real estate market tanks, you may have a hard time selling it or you may take a loss. 2, and I want you to think about this very carefully, Dennis. If something happens to you, your wife's going to have to take over managing that rental property. And if she's not a big fan, then I got to tell you, it probably is not going to be a good idea for you to take on rental property. Especially if there's things you want to do in retirement, like travel, enjoy the grandkids, because I know, because I've done it before. I've owned rental property before. I don't anymore. And there's a good reason I don't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So because you have to deal with the tenants, you got to deal with the maintenance, overflowing toilets, all that kind of stuff comes with the job. And it may look good on paper, but there's always an unexpected expense that you weren't counting on. And so I would just caution you to really and truly make sure you're committed to that before you do it, because it can be a job instead of retirement income. So with that, hey folks, I want to thank you for joining us for the show. Hey, if you have questions when it comes to retirement income plan, the risk you have in your portfolio, these topics are important when you're looking at your retirement. And it's better to do it now than later to get those questions answered. So to start that process, start with our financial x-ray. Hey, give me a call, 863-285-3815 to get on my schedule. That's 863-285-3815. Or you can go to my website, statlerfinancial.com. There's a link right there that you can click and see my calendar and get on my schedule just as easy as a click away. Either way, I'd love to sit down with you and go through our financial x-ray. Again, give me a call, 863-285-3815. Until next time, have a great week.
Call Philip Statler today to get started on your complimentary financial x-ray report. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful. This radio show is a